This is Nick Shaw of the Baseball Box and former shortstop in the Milwaukee Brewers organization, and this is Baseball Talk with Trey Snide.
And good morning. Welcome to the Baseball Talk podcast right here on the CRN Sports Podcast Network. Hope you're having a fantastic day and a happy Monday to you. My name is Trey Snide, the host of Baseball Talk right here on CRN, and joining by way of a recorded phone line from You Go Pro Baseball, John Madden. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Trey. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. How is everything in your neck of the woods? You have now, are you located in the Covington, Louisiana, or is that just where your youth camp is coming?
That's just where my youth camp is going to be with Brent Porcio and Top Velocity. I'm actually in Central Florida.
Okay.
And we actually had our first baseball tournament this weekend, youth baseball tournament. So they opened it up in Viera, Florida at the Space Coast Stadium, and we had 70-plus teams out there. And it was great to finally get some baseball back.
Oh, my! So then I caught you at the perfect time so we can actually talk about real baseball. How great is that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been gone for a while.
Of course, you were drafted by the San Diego Padres in the 8th round back in 2005. Before we get into what your You Go Pro Baseball is all about, just kind of tell who you are. We'll introduce you as a baseball player and as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Grew up here in Central Florida. Came here from New Jersey in 1987, and started playing baseball here. This was my first baseball experience in T-ball. Came all the way up to Little League. Travel ball wasn't really a thing when I came up, but my junior year in high school, I did play travel ball. Played with some great guys. Zach Greinke was actually on my team, so we had a pretty stacked team in high school for the travel ball team. And then I went to community college. We ended up going to the Junior College World Series. Then I got a scholarship to Auburn to play. And then I was drafted, like you said, by the Padres 2005. And then the New York Mets purchased my contract in the Rule 5 draft. And I finished my career with them. I tore my labrum and my rotator cuff and just never came back from that. And that was I think that was like 2010. So it's been about 10 years since I've been out of the game. But now I've been coaching. I was lucky enough to start this website, YouTube channel back then while I was still playing in 2007. And it's really grown over the last 13 years. And now that's what I do full time. And I just post videos, baseball instructional videos on YouTube and try to help the young players who aspire to be pros to accomplish their goals by just offering them free information. So.
Well, again, John Madden joins me right here on the Baseball Talk podcast and CRN, home of the CRN Sports Network. Again, thank you for joining us this morning right here on CRN. Consider the #1 baseball instructional website in the world right now, You Go Pro Baseball, and you can find all that information at YouGoProBaseball.com. Again, that's YouGoProBaseball.com. That's actually where I noticed what you were doing by way of your YouTube videos, because I actually showed these videos and sent them to my baseball players here locally in Henderson, local high school coach, varsity coach here in town. And so I had the pleasure of showing these videos, or your YouTube videos, to my players. And so that's how I got introduced who you are. What made you start kind of focusing on this YouTube and just kind of instructing kids and young adults how to be a better individual, but also a better baseball player?
Well, it all started when I was in the minor league, and there's a bunch of guys sitting around, and we're always thinking about business ideas and what we could do, because everyone in the minor leagues is broke, unless you got a big signing bonus. So there was a bunch of us that talked about this, and me and my buddy Greg Burke actually were thinking about this. He actually wrote a few articles back in the day. I think he wrote like 1 or 2 articles for the original site. And, we were like, this would be a cool idea to have a website and stuff like that. So I kind of took it and ran with it. And he ended up doing really good and going, we were in low A at the time, I think. And he jumped to high A, then to double A. Next thing you know, he's in the big league. So he's like, I'm good, do your thing. So I was still in the minor league grinding away. And I said, you know what, it'd be cool just to show what I'm doing, show behind the scenes and show everything that's going on. And so that's what I started doing. And back then, I don't know if you remember the BlackBerry phones, but you could get your email on the phone. That was like the first phone you can get your email on. And I got one of those, and I was just like mind blown that you can get your email on the phone. So I was like, man, I've got to be able to, I can get this information out there, because YouTube is just brand new at the time. So I think I was like the second year YouTube was around, I started putting videos up on it. So, I just got in early and just started showing what I was doing, sharing my experience in pro ball. And then obviously when I got done playing, I shared that experience. I shared my experience of getting hurt, and I was just showing everything that I was doing back then. And it's kind of evolved into now more instructional, because now I'm, more of a coach than a player. So now I'm doing a lot of instructional stuff, and I have a lot of former teammates come on, and friends that played Major League Baseball, minor league baseball. They come on, they share their tips. Nick Shaw,
absolutely,
I believe, and that's basically how it started and where it's at now.
I was just gonna, right before you said that, I was gonna kind of pop in and said my good friend and Nick Shaw, who's came on this podcast with me about a month or so ago now. He told some good stories about you. That's where I want to go now. Can you? I know he's going to be listening to this podcast, so can you tell me some good stories about Nick Shaw?
Oh man, well let me tell you, Nick Shaw is one of the coolest guys ever. First of all, just the real genuine guy, and he comes out. He travels from the Tampa area all the way to Central Florida,
wow,
which is probably 2 hours plus for him just to come over and shoot the videos, and he does it for free. And he just offers all that information to these young players for free. And he's just an all around good dude. He's my roommate on the road when we travel for the USSSA All-American games. So we have a lot of fun, in the hotel rooms. And he's always telling stories about back when he's played. We do a lot of laughing, I'll tell you that. For sure.
That sounds like that sounds right.
Yeah, it's always good times with Nick Shaw around.
Now, again, John Madden joins me right here on the Baseball Talk podcast on CRN. He's with the organization You Go Pro Baseball. I kind of want to get into the actual baseball talk now, Coach. You said they finally opened back up the baseball fields, and if you listen to this podcast in the past, unfortunately, we didn't even get a home game. Everything was canceled on March 13th. Look, we had 4 games that we played. And then March 13th was our first home game of the season here locally, and that's the day they canceled. So my 2 seniors didn't have an opportunity to play it in front of their home crowd. But, what was the atmosphere there for the first really weekend allowed to be back on the baseball field?
Unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to go out there. I've been kind of staying at home, staying low key. So I didn't make it out there, but I heard it was a great success, and all the feedback that I got from the parents and from the coaches and the organization, everyone seemed happy. Everything seemed to run smooth. It was a huge tournament. Like I said, 70 plus teams, and all the feedback was really good. Obviously it was a little bit different because they took a lot of special measures to make sure, the dugouts were being cleaned up, everyone's staying, 6 feet apart, and they took all the special measures to make sure everybody was safe. But at the end of the day, they were playing baseball out there on the field. So it was a good, again, a lot of good feedback from everybody.
Absolutely, and I cannot wait. Again, we're still waiting for the North Carolina Independent School Athletic Association here in town, waiting for that to come about to see when we're allowed to get back on, at least just back on the baseball field. Coach, I kind of want to put your coaching hat on now. If you can, for the young up-and-coming coaches, and we're going to get into the kind of the young players here in just a second, John, but for the up-and-coming coaches, again, you've been a part of Major League Baseball. You're doing more and more of that now with You Go Pro Baseball, teaching and instructing how to get better as a baseball player between a pitcher, and you still have some hitting things as well, fielding. But as a young coach coming into the game, what kind of experience can you say, and what kind of direction can you lead them moving forward into their younger career?
Yeah, a couple things. The biggest thing for me when I was making the transition from a player to a coach was I thought that I knew a lot about how to coach. And really, I was just taking from personal experience. And a lot of the times I was taking from what I was taught and then just kind of regurgitating that. But the more that I got into coaching, I realized that I had to speak from, or at least it helped me to speak from, a more visceral perspective, meaning trying to explain in layman's terms or in very simple terms how I felt when I performed something. And a lot of it came from a mindset perspective versus a mechanics perspective. I talk a lot about mechanics. And when I do talk about mechanics, I try to explain it from my feeling versus just regurgitating what coaches taught me coming up, because I started to notice that a lot of things that I was taught weren't what I was doing. And I was just teaching that because that's what I was taught and I was hearing other coaches doing. So I think my biggest piece of advice for new coaches is just be open-minded and try to learn as much as you can, but also don't get stuck into the pattern of just saying what you're hearing other coaches say, because sometimes that may not be true, and it may not be true to every single athlete too. You got to think about each individual athlete that you're talking to, because, player A may be totally different from player B, and you could use two totally different philosophies on helping those players grow. So you got to be really open-minded. You got to be able to move quickly and help each individual player grow the best that they can. That's the biggest thing. We talked about Nick Shaw before. He comes on and talks about infield. I used to talk about infield, but, then I started to realize, listen, why don't I have these guys who actually know a lot about infield? I don't have to know everything. And, as long as I know someone that knows a lot about infield, let me have them on. And he's been a great asset. He's got the baseball box. If you guys don't know what that is, you got to check it out. It's thebaseballbox.com. Really cool stuff. It's like a monthly subscription box where young baseball players can get some really cool stuff delivered to their doorstep. And then I got guys like Fernando Cortez comes on. He talks about hitting. He was a major league guy. Tons of really cool guys. Doug Bernier, major league guy. He talked infield, hitting. Matt Antonelli, he's got a huge YouTube channel. He was my former teammate in the Padres organization. He came on, talked some hitting and some infield. So I kind of took a step back away from hitting and infield because I was a pitcher. So, I have these studs come on, and that's exactly what they know and they talk about. So as a new coach, don't be afraid to say, you know what, I might not know so much about this. Let me get someone in here that does. So that's one thing that I had to learn along the way, that, I don't know everything and it's okay. And then also understand that young, players are going to be different, and then also speak from a visceral level, something that you felt when you were playing, and be true instead of just regurgitating information that you heard on the way up.
Absolutely love. Again, John Madden joins me right here on the Baseball Talk podcast, part of the You Go Pro Baseball. You can follow everything. You can subscribe to his YouTube channel. All you got to do is search You Go Pro Baseball. That's exactly how I found it. So on the other end of the spectrum, Coach, let's kind of take a couple, and of course I don't want to give everything away, because I want them to go to your website and I want them to go to your YouTube channel and be able to watch these videos, because I promise you, they are outstanding. Give me a couple kind of ideas, if, again, as them coaches, but talking to the players itself, the young, between T-ball, between travel ball, between high school, middle, whatever it is. Can you give us a couple ideas of what to say to these players?
Yeah. Obviously these young players are playing for a reason. Hopefully they're not just playing because their parents are making a play. Hopefully they're playing because they love it. And if they do love it, I'm sure they have goals and aspirations to make it to the highest level. That was my whole goal when I was playing. I wanted to be a professional baseball player. I'm sure that's, 90% of the young athletes playing right now is like they want to be a pro player. And I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give to them is just, obviously,